Get started. Happy Sunday. I look a hot mess. I realize that, but you know what? Look, it is what it is. It is what it is. All right. Yes. Filled up the water. Do you want water? Yes, but I have tea, and there's not very much sugar left. But can I have the rest of the sugar? Yes. Okay. And then when you're done, come back, because I'm going to introduce you. Okay. Even though there's nobody here yet, it's okay. It's getting warmed up. I've been picking up my face. I have been nonstop, like obsessed over something coming out of my nose, and there's something in my nose, and I need to like pick my nose. There's something coming out of it. That's like fucking. Ugh. There's like this stuff coming out. I don't know. See, I can see. Anyway, it don't matter now. You won't be able to see it. That's the thing. It's like I've been recording like my day and everything like that, and then I pointing things out, and I realized like, yeah, you can't see this, and then when you go back to play it back on the recording, there's nothing there. So that's kind of how I figured it out. But look, I've been like going to town on my face, just fidgeting, picking, because it's just been driving me crazy. I don't have any medication at all. I don't even have any. What I was going to talk about was ketamine, because ketamine is the closest thing that I've ever had to a medication that could dampen the voices enough to at least let me like hear myself think. So, but anyway, yeah. So I was here because yesterday was International Schizophrenia Day, and I thought it would be, why not come on here and say something? But I don't know. As the day went on, I just was like, fuck that. I'm not. What do I have to say about schizophrenia? It's been a nightmare. Um, I wish, my big wish for, one thing for International Schizophrenia Day that I wish I could have would be some kind of Make-A-Wish Foundation for schizophrenia, because it's not cool that there's so many people out here who are struggling and not okay. And there's schizophrenia affects us. I mean, it's suicide. It's suicide that kills people with schizophrenia if it's not the mixture of the substance abuse on top of, because many people with schizophrenia use drugs and or alcohol to cope. And I know I've definitely used alcohol in the past, and thank God I don't anymore, but I did for a long time. So, but I came on to talk about, Hollywood versus the real world when it comes to like real, accurate portrayals and representations of schizophrenia in the media. So I thought, okay, yesterday was International Schizophrenia Day. Let me do a quick, couple of minutes on, what my life is like. These last 15 years have been wild. It's been, yeah, it's more than half of my adult life. So it's like I remember my life before, but I can't really recall memories without hearing the voices when I like recall them. So yeah, I just wanted to come on, talk a little bit about what it's like to live with it, what treatment resistant schizophrenia means. And essentially, it just kind of means that I haven't been able to find a medication that really works without either having some kind of side effect or it just doesn't work at all. And when I say side effects, I mean the worst side effect that I've ever had of any schizophrenia medication I've taken. Hi, hello, welcome. Hello, little play, welcome. I really appreciate you stopping in, checking out my live stream. I'm just talking about like what it's like for me. I was diagnosed at 22 with schizophrenia, and the diagnosis shifted between schizophrenia and schizoaffective disorder the last couple of years. Hello and welcome. It's Sunday night. Tomorrow's Memorial Day. Yesterday was International Schizophrenia Day, so I thought I would kind of stick myself in between Schizophrenia Day and Memorial Day. As a military veteran, to me, Memorial Day is really about honoring the sacrifice that's already been made by members of the military in the past. And so, even though I served, I made it, I'm alive. So I don't really count Memorial Day as a day for anybody to like to thank me. And Veterans Day is the day that I expect people to thank. I expect people to thank me. I just assume I'll hear that throughout the day, because if I go to Applebee's or if I go to get a freebie on Veterans Day, usually that's when I hear it. But if it's Memorial Day, I generally ignore it, and I focus more heavily on like my family members who served in the military and who have passed on, or their service and sacrifice. But for me, like my military service kind of bled into prodromal schizophrenia, and prodromal schizophrenia sort of came out and bled out of my military service. So that's why I even bring it up because it was a big, like a watershed. A lot of the things that happened to me in the military are attributed to why they think that I ended up going on to develop schizophrenia, full blown schizophrenia, not just what? Hello, welcome, welcome aboard. Hello to you in India. That's okay, no worries. I wish I spoke any Indian languages. I don't speak anything Gujarati. I don't speak Punjabi. I don't speak any Indian languages. I'm sorry. Hello, hello, welcome. Happy Sunday. I'm just here telling the world about what's going on with my brain and the schizophrenic brain of mine. I was talking about how tends to show people with schizophrenia is like hearing voices that are telling them to like hurt people and do bad things and like be very violent. And I don't know about other people with schizophrenia. All I know is that by and large, media portrayals just don't really paint an accurate picture because even in the one pic, I think the one movie that I've seen that did a pretty good job is 100 Years of Solitude. And actually, it's a show. There's a show that's not about schizophrenia, but it's a show. It's a comedy, and my fiance and I watch it, and it's called Ghosts. And if you on Paramount Plus or I think you can watch it through Prime, but you've got to have a Paramount Plus. And it's called Ghosts. Now, Ghosts is very similar. Like, so my fiance is here, so Chandra, come sit. I want to introduce you. Come on over, love. So my fiance is here. Her name's Chandra. Hi, Chandra. Welcome, welcome. Well, thank you. I was funny because a child just called me ugly the other day, and it like crushed my spirit entirely. But no, it's all good. Anyway, so Chandra, come on over. We watched a show called Ghosts, and it's a show that kind of, even though it's not about schizophrenia, it shows a woman who sees people that her husband doesn't see or can't see. And I always hate to say like I can see things or hear things that other people can't, because it's not really about a matter of can or can't. It's not like I have some magical superpower. It's like a curse that I call it a curse, but it's a scientific neurological brain disease. And so I was going to bring Chandra in to talk about this because um, over the last almost 15 years now, I've been with Chandra three now, almost a half years, 3 and almost a half. And but my schizophrenia predates our relationship. And so when I met her, I sort of had to explain that like my condition is pretty much near constant. I hear lots of different types of voices, and the one that's the hardest to ignore is the one that kind of sits like right behind my right ear. And it's like always been here. It's always kind of been there. And I call him control because he's the command voice, primary command voice that I hear. And I wanted to just be really clear from the very beginning, like there may be people with schizophrenia who have voices who tell them to hurt other people or tell them that people are out to get them and so they need to get them first, that kind of thing. But my voices don't like do that to me. They are more persecutory in nature and they try to get me to like kill myself or hurt myself. And it's really directed at me. So sometimes so over the years, I was sort of trained to sort of like, filter that out, sort of like treat it like trains of thought, even though they sound external. Like that's the thing. These my voices, they don't sound like people say voices in my head. Like I hear voices in my head. But I'm the voice I hear in my head is mine. My voice I recognize, right? And like you recognize your voice, like you can hear like right now in your mind, you're hearing yourself react to what I'm saying.
Right.
You're having a response, but you may not be saying it aloud. Well, that's called subvocal speech. And because I didn't have child onset schizophrenia, I developed it as an adult. My brain was already toward adulthood, so it was developing at the time more
Right.
closely into adulthood. So I already had like a frame of reference for like an objective world around me and a sense of what's real and what's not. And I didn't really have any idea that anything was really wrong. In high school, I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder at 15, and I struggled there was a lot of trauma. They say 9 out of 10 people with schizophrenia have a history of childhood trauma. And there are what they say 14 times more likely to be victims of violence than they are to commit acts of violence or to perpetrate acts of violence. And these are statistical facts. You can look this up. The National Institute of Mental Health puts this information out. American Psychiatric Association puts that out. NAMI puts that out as well. There's lots of statistical information you can find. You can look up yourself. I'm here because I needed people to see a real person with schizophrenia, and I was sick and tired of Hollywood portrayals of it. And so I wanted to bring my fiance because I thought it would be really helpful to hear her insight One of the biggest things, the reason why I brought up ghosts is because one of the biggest things in our relationship has been like, even though over the years I've learned to ignore my voices, the problem is that sometimes I ignore them too well, to the point where I ignore real people and real things and real stimulus around me that are real. So where I was going with the whole, like, the voices to me are external to me, and there's more than one. There's a whispering, and for me, that's kind of where it all started. Was that I thought people were talking about me. I could hear them, and they were kept saying she, and they kept saying my name, and I kept thinking that the people were talking about me. So that's how I started to learn to sort of like just ignore it. But there's too many voices, and they yell and they swear at me and they threaten me, and then on top of that there's visual hallucinations. And so one of the things I've noticed is that sometimes I realize that in my relationships, the schizophrenia makes my ADHD worse, and so I have a hard time with grappling between focusing on what's right in front of me, whoever or whatever is most important right now and that is real, and trying to filter out anything that I might think is a baseline hallucination. That after almost 15 years, I'm pretty good at recognizing what I'm used to seeing as my hallucinations, and with therapy, being able to recognize and identify them. But one thing happens, sometimes I'll be in that state of mind where I'm focusing really heavily and trying to concentrate. And so ADHD hyperfocus sort of takes over, and I start filtering out everything around me, and I'll begin to ignore real people. So can you tell us what that was like, trying to figure out what was going on with me when you first met? Because she knew I had schizophrenia, but she'd never been in a relationship with somebody who had schizophrenia before. So that's kind of comes back to the question of what was your like impression and what happened.
It's it's different because like for her, exactly what she just said, she's lived with it this long, and so the problem is schizophrenia is a spectrum and it shows up differently in every snowflake of a person. So you can like read and research about it and know somebody has it. But
San Diego, that's where I shipped out from. Sorry, go ahead. Just saying hello to our friends in the chat. Don't want to leave you guys hanging.
Hi, people.
Welcome aboard. Thanks for being here.
You can know somebody has it and you can research all about it, but there's still the two factors of every single person with it is different.
What's up, Anthony? Okay.
You can, but the two factors are still everybody with it is different. It is displayed differently in every single person, and the other factor is every single moment in time is different and brings with it a whole new set of factors to play with in that moment, you know? And so things come up. Things are always coming up. Even like she's talking about when it was new in the relationship and when I didn't know, but there are still times because of those two factors we can't control that it's a learning experience still for me, and I still have to be told because I may think a certain thing, and that's the problem is we get misunderstandings in perspective. I may think a certain thing is happening, and she may think a certain thing is happening, and there has to be the explanation of the differences. The schizophrenia movie projector here is playing this, and I didn't know that.
No, it's good. No, that's,
but like yeah. So but like that yeah, you should research and learn all about it, but like yeah, the factors are everyone's a snowflake and every new moment brings new factors into play and different things happen that you wouldn't expect, and sometimes there are questions of what's going on, and the answer ends up being, oh, I was hearing like 12 other things about this, and so I was over here with this, and I'm like, oh, okay, because I thought we were over here with this.
Yeah, because so basically what happens is every day I wake up to an onslaught of voices yelling at me, telling me to wake the fuck up, you fat ugly cunt, I'm gonna fucking kill you, that kind of thing. And it starts, sometimes it's before I even open my eyes. That's why sometimes it really is and can be very disorienting. And so when I get up in the morning, I'm kind of cranky and I don't really want to talk, and I don't really want anybody to talk to me because I'm still trying to figure out, okay, I'm awake. I'm being told this, I'm being told that. I need to get a rub and get ready for work. But I'm being like constantly yelled at, criticized. There's a voice that just kind of like comments neutrally on everything that I'm doing. She's sitting in bed. She's sitting right now. Like right now, I'm hearing what one voice that is describing me as sitting cross-legged on the bed, holding my little Starbucks cup, And then there's another one that's constantly talking about my looks and how I look like shit and how I look like a fat, ugly cunt and my face is a wreck and why do I bother? And then I have Control, who sits right back here by my ear. So, like, because I have those voices all the time and they feel so real because they feel like somebody in the room, they feel as real as Chandra. Sometimes the voices can even mimic Chandra's voice. So sometimes I think Chandra's saying things to me that she's not saying. And sometimes even her face contorts, and I see like multiple sets of eyes on her face. She'll have an extra mouth. She might have two mouths. They're extra. So she has like three mouths on her face, and she'll be talking to me, and I can't even look at her. And she doesn't always know this because I'm not always reacting to it. But that's schizophrenia. Like after all these years of some therapy and some good therapy, some bad therapy, 5 hospitalizations, multiple suicide attempts, going through from psychiatrist to psychiatrist, from job to job to job. I've worked since I was 15 years old, and I joined the military when I was 17. And I was in the military, and then I went and I did that, and things happened to me in the military. Things happened to me as a civilian stateside in the military, before the military. Things happened to me in the military. And then I left the military, and I ended up moving to Australia and then getting stranded down there. And that was a whole other story. If you want to hear about that, that was on my last live. Last weekend, I told that story about moving to Australia and then ending up being stranded. And just all of my life so far has just been one sort of trauma after another. And so, like I said at the beginning of the live stream, 9 out of 10 people with schizophrenia have a history of childhood trauma. That means that when you see these people out on the street, you're looking at somebody who's probably been through something pretty rough, at least quite a bit, more heavier than the average person. So that person is hearing things, and that leads them to things like alcohol. Alcohol can numb and it led me to alcohol because when I was 15, I was hearing things that I just thought I was just imagining it. But I used to hear my name being called outside my bedroom window, so I started hiding a steak knife and sleeping with the steak knife under my pillow when I was 15. So there were early signs. I mean, I was diagnosed with anxiety, but it was just,
that brain was then further abused upon and abused upon
right.
and abused upon and traumatized. And
yeah,
so it's a conflation of many factors here.
Yeah, my childhood was fraught with, we were homeless at points. We were evicted. I was the one who, as a child, who got to take the eviction notice down from the door and freak out because we were being told we had 3 days to pay or leave our home, and we moved constantly because my stepdad is a pedophile and child molester and a violent, abusive person. He's a convicted pedophile. I'm not even a convicted child molester. I'm not even saying anything that's not slanderous or libelous at all against him because he's been convicted of it and he's on the registry. And so, but yeah, that was 15 years. That was more than half of my life spent with that person. And that person tried to groom me. They molested my sister. They victimized 3 or 4 other people. And that was while they were throwing my mom over a couch, while they were trying to slit my mom's throat open with a steak knife in front of me, while they were pulling the keys out of a moving car. That was my childhood. So you can imagine, I had to put a plan together for myself to how do I get out of here? Because my mom kept going back. We kept going back and back and back, and I would have a restraining order in one hand. I would put it in my pocket, and I'd go to school, and then the next minute, after my mom promised that he would never come back, you'd never know where we were living, he'd be back in the house, and I would be like, I don't know what to do. I can't live worrying all the time, but this man's gonna kill my mom or me or whatever. And then my little sister came along, and I guess my mom felt like she needed to stay with him, but I was already dealing with PTSD that was undiagnosed. And the first diagnosis I ever got was for generalized anxiety at 15 because my mom cut me off. My mom disowned me for writing an essay about the steak knife incident. The essay I read aloud to the class was about my mom meeting my stepdad online, and it was about the perils of meeting people on the internet because look what happened. This man attacked my mom with a steak knife and made me fear for my life and my sister's life. And then she took him back within a few months. So it really devastated me. And I was afraid all the time that, he was going to do more things to hurt us. It was going to be too little too late. I was going to get a call saying your mom's dead, and it was Al. But I have a younger sister, a half sister, and my mom, I guess, felt some kind of weird guilt or weird sense of obligation to try, I don't know, as a Christian, something about being a Christian and being judged for being divorced already and not wanting to be on the hook for another divorce, and then just whatever. And then some other logic about, well, if, you know, I can keep a better eye on him if he's with me, if I'm with him. But while you were with him for 15 years, he managed to victimize multiple children, and as well as you and your entire family. So I don't know how you make sense of that, but that's neither here nor there. The point is that there was trauma. I heard my stepdad screaming. I've watched my stepdad with a steak knife at my mom's throat, threatening to kill her. I heard my stepfather, multiple times banging on the front door, screaming, "I'm going to kill you, Carrie. I'm going to kill you, Carrie. Just you wait till I get in there, Carrie." And just I could hear all of that. And so people have asked me, like, are your voices just like memories? And it's like, sometimes my
Well, that's what
voices
people
can
are
be.
asking you. They're asking you if the voices are, some people are saying they have
Don't
complementary
do drugs.
voices. Some people say that their voices are afraid of them, so they're in charge of their voices.
Oh, that's interesting.
Some people, so yeah, they're asking about what your voices are like. Her voices are very much always berating and insulting and screaming and threatening and all of that. They're not to be cowed. She can say whatever she wants, and they don't care. They don't stop. They don't give control over to her. She cannot dominate them in the way that some of you say you can, where your voices are afraid of you, and they'll back down, and you can essentially control them and put them in their place.
No, I'm not on crack. I've never honestly, like, it's fine if you can ask all the questions you want. I'm not afraid of your questions at all. No, I've never done meth or crack or anything like that. Hang on, I gotta answer the first couple of things I saw. No, there's no cocaine. I've never done anything like that. I started smoking weed after I was already diagnosed with schizophrenia. But no, I've never tried any like actual like hard, when you talk about hard substances, I've never done crack cocaine or any meth or any of that. I have ADHD. I am prone to pressured speech because of my ADHD, and because I have voices that are constantly telling me what to do and what to say, and they're pressuring me to either stop talking or say this differently or do that or whatever. So that's why I speak quickly sometimes, and it has nothing to do with drug use whatsoever. In fact, I just want you guys to know, while we're on the subject of schizophrenia at all, you should know that anybody can get schizophrenia. You don't have to have a genetic predisposition to get schizophrenia. You never have to have done a single drug in your life to get schizophrenia. And those are the facts, ma'am. If you want to verify what I'm saying, you can just go right to NAMI or the APA website or National Institute of Mental Health. Everywhere that that you look out there in the world with facts and data will tell you what I'm saying is true. You don't even have to take my word for it. Do I have beneficial voices? I did, but she's gone. There was a woman, a French actress, and she's dead, of course, now, but she's been gone for a long time. But I used to hallucinate the fully formed vision of Edith Foyer, who is a famous French actress from like the 40s and 50s. And I thought she was beneficial. I mean, she said she was beneficial. She said she was going to try to help save me. But the fact is that I wandered out into the middle of the street to go sit and talk with her, and I almost got hit by a car. So is that beneficial? Probably not. Even if she told me she was, even if I believe she was at the time, that doesn't necessarily mean that she was. But I felt safer, like around her. I felt safer when she was present, because she always said she used to like recite poetry, French poetry and stuff to me, and that used to help me a lot. And it just helped me stay calm. And like I said, having now been in the military. I don't know where that came from. I don't know, because I don't know. But thank you for asking. Was there a point that I thought tipped me over the edge and made things worse? Definitely. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like the tipping point was that night when I went out to the street to sit with La Première, and the next few weeks, as they passed over the next few weeks to months, there wasn't like one incident. It was just a series of, I kept hearing people talking in the other room. And since I had an uncle with schizophrenia, I kind of recognized that there might be a problem, but I thought it was PTSD. You know, I thought what was experiencing was sort of just episodic, and it had to do with my military traumas. I thought it might have to do with some of the sexual assaults that I experienced. I experienced 2 different sexual assaults up until that point, by the time I was even 22. and diagnosed with schizophrenia. So, and then I experienced another 2 sexual assaults after that from 2 different people. So I have been through a lot, and so dissociation is part of the territory with PTSD. So I just thought I was like having PTSD episodes, and I was diagnosed with complex PTSD because of all of the different traumas that I've experienced. Like it's an ongoing traumatic experience to go through violence and homelessness and violence, and then to go through a 5.5 year long relationship with somebody who was physically violent toward you. So there was that. I was in a relationship with somebody who was actually trying to gaslight me into believing that I was completely helpless, and that there was nothing I could ever do, and that she was the only person who was ever going to love me, et cetera, et cetera. But when it came down to it, you know, trapping me in our bedroom, taking my car keys away, punching me in front of my sister, punching me at all. I mean, that trauma also compounds on top of the military trauma, and that military trauma and that DV trauma also compounds onto the early childhood, not early childhood, but childhood adolescent years of domestic violence that I was forced to live through and witness. And on top of that, just my family's divorce, my parents' divorce was traumatic. It was ugly. My mom became a completely different person in my eyes. She was like a possessed demon. You have to understand, I was raised in a pretty devout Christian upbringing. Like that was my beginnings. At least that's why I believed my family was. And so like we weren't even allowed. It's funny because Chandra is from a Mormon background, and I was taught and raised that Mormons are like not to play with them, not to talk to them, not to mess with Mormonism at all. And then I ended up becoming engaged to somebody from ex-Mormon from, but you still have family who are active and believers and stuff like that. So so it's just the irony of that for me. But yeah, it's just a matter of trying to understand that yeah, shit happens. And you know what? Do you see me crying? I'm not crying about it. I live my life. Even though there's a corpse in my shower, I still shower as much as often as I can. And I still brush my teeth, and I still go to work. And like I said, I've been working all the way through this diagnosis. And if you want to see my social security statement, you can see I've worked on and off since I was 15, and plus military service. So it's not about crying a river. It's about reporting out that trauma, that literal trauma where there's life and limb in danger constantly, can lead to a diagnosis of schizophrenia later on, especially when you match it with the genetic predisposition. So that's all this is about. And Netflix isn't going to tell you that. Netflix doesn't want to see healthy schizophrenic people. Netflix wants to see crazy ass Fatal Attraction shit. They want to see some fucking gnarly ass axe murderer who hears voices telling them to chop every child up in the neighborhood, because that sells. But that's not facts. The fact is that schizophrenic people are more likely to be victims of violence than they are to perpetrate acts of violence against other people. And that's just a fact. And no amount of Hollywood is right in profiting and exploiting the real suffering of real human beings. And that's why I'm here doing the YouTube stuff, because I was watching these movies. Like I watched A Beautiful Mind, good movie, but grossly inaccurate, and even inaccurate in terms of John Nash's lived experience of schizophrenia. He didn't see visual hallucinations. He had auditory hallucinations. So it's just different for everybody. It's different for everybody. And they don't always initiate that violence. In fact, there are more cases of violence are enacted by neurotypical people who don't even have a technical mental illness at the time of their acts of violence. Do your research. Do a little bit more research before you just assume that schizophrenic people initiate violence. If we are initiating violence, it's because we are perceiving a formed hallucination that is attacking us. If we are enacting violence, it is a feeling of self-defense because we see and hear and feel somebody attacking us. That's where people with schizophrenia have a tendency to become violent. And usually it's in cases where there's a substance abuse disorder at work, because the person is trying to medicate themselves and numb the voices with alcohol or some kind of drug. And then that leads to a loss of complete contact with reality. We call psychosis, not knowing where you are, who you are, who the president is. That's what we're talking about. It's not about, anything else. It's just not about any of that. It's not about how many drugs you did. It's not about, like I said, anybody can develop schizophrenia. It just can happen to anybody. And the newest research about cannabis is saying that, yeah, because cannabis, especially because cannabis is so high in THC now, so potent, that young men, boys and teens who are using cannabis are more at risk of developing a psychotic disorder like schizophrenia, from the use of it, especially in those adolescent years. So something to be mindful of. But for me, weed had helped me because I was able to sleep at night without nightmares. I have been plagued by nightmares pretty much my whole life, and I don't really sleep. So because the voices are on all the time, they don't really stop. There might be lulls, and I watch things with closed captions on all the time, as if I'm hard of hearing, or even as if I'm deaf at times, because they can be that loud. And like I said, I tend to ignore people who are real because sometimes I think they're a hallucination. And then I sometimes react to my hallucinations thinking that they're a real person. So that's schizophrenia. And that's why I was here. I just wanted people to have a better understanding. It's not, for me, it's just a state of being, and I'm constantly living with it. And I have to walk by my hallucinations. I have fully formed hallucinations of large men who look like, there's a guy who looks like the spitting image of this serial killer. He's about 7 feet tall. He looks like Ed Kemper. I call him Ed. And this is the guy that, like, I went to the hospital because I was calling the police on this person, and they kept coming to the house and not finding this person. And then my partner at the time, ex now, went out to look for this person and didn't see them. And then it happened 3 or 4 times. And that's when I was like, okay, I'm going to check myself into the hospital. And that's how I ended up finding out about a week or so around the week of Christmas 2012. And I stayed in the hospital, and I was there for 2 weeks or so. And they said, hey, you have schizophrenia. That's our diagnosis. Do you accept it? And I was like, well, no, because I thought I had PTSD. And then I'm like, well, I guess I don't have a choice if you guys are saying that you're the experts, right? You're the experts. I've been in the hospital almost 2 weeks. They haven't stopped. And they said that's the problem. Like, that's where where the crux of it is. We're defining it as schizophrenia because the voices don't go away. With PTSD, you have a psychotic episode, and it comes and it goes, and it ebbs and it flows. But with schizophrenia, it's almost always present. And so that's like the defining factor. Are there any other questions I missed that you saw in the chat that I haven't responded to yet?
I mean, they've been saying a lot of things.
Well, if there's anything that you feel like I missed that I should respond to, that you thought would be a good idea to answer a question, or anything that you thought I should respond to? I say you guys are going really fast. It's awesome. Yes, we can hear more from the girl from the back. How do I know it's not DID? DID and schizophrenia are distinctly different illnesses. DID I do have dissociative episodes, and I've always had dissociation since I was a teenager. But I don't have a diagnosis of DID. I have a diagnosis of schizophrenia. Now, I'm on Medicaid. I just got back on Medicaid because I can't afford health insurance. I work full time, but I still can't afford health insurance that'll get me to to pay for the psychiatrist. They don't offer this. Sorry. The insurance that they offer me at my job is not covered, or is not accepted by my psychiatrist. And my psychiatrist currently is like considered one of the top schizophrenia doctors in the state of Washington, which is where I live. And so I can't afford to see him. It's $200 for each appointment out of pocket. So I just can't afford it right now because I just started this job. So I'm just trying to get myself back on track, get in with a therapist, get to see a psychiatrist, and get back into that. You're fine. You don't have to worry about anything anyway, because it's like not about that. You don't have to worry about that. But yeah, it's good to know that there are people out there who have a heart and a soul and can think for themselves. And I really appreciate that there have been people here to support. And Chandra's been incredibly supportive, and I couldn't have gotten this far without somebody saying, hey, look, I see that what you're going through is really hard, and not a lot of people go through that. If you were hearing what I hear all day, every day, you'd feel very similar to, I'm sure that you'd feel very similarly to how I feel. That mostly the difference between people on the street and people who are not on the street with schizophrenia is having support and having somebody to look out for them and, you know, remind them that like there's somebody here no matter what who won't give up on you. So, you know, tomorrow is Memorial Day. As a military veteran, like I said at the beginning of the stream, I feel like tomorrow I'm going to spend kind of looking back through my family's history of their military service and reflecting on that and appreciating people who are willing to take that oath, because it's not easy to take an oath and understand what it really means. And so having done that, I just feel it's important to always be in touch with the history of where we've been in my family and stuff like that. My great grandfather fought the Battle of the Bulge during World War II, and I like to look back at that and think about that, an act of courage. Someday we'll be called upon to maybe make those hard choices, and I just hope that there's people out there who have the integrity and the strength to do the truly right thing, have the true integrity to stand up for the what is truly right, and what is right is to uphold the Constitution. And so that's all I'm going to say about Memorial Day. Thanks all for being here. Appreciate y'all. Thank you for your questions. And to my trolls, thanks for the engagement. You did good. Thanks, y'all. Thanks, y'all. Have a great weekend, rest of your weekend, and have a great week. And we'll see you next Sunday. We'll be talking about child predators and why women stay with them, why they get, you know, why do women marry child molesters knowing they're child molesters? Why do they do that? It's a thing. I'll tell you about it when we meet again. Thanks, guys. Have a great night.